Boruto Uzumaki, the last shinobi. Not voluntarily, but more of a cursed fate. Ever since he was young, he was always destined to shoulder the fate of the world against great destruction. And this destruction will be unlike anything we ever seen. It took me a while to revisit this topic, but now that I have a somewhat better idea of the direction IKEMOTO is going with the story, let's try and talk about the future event that will shape Boruto's legacy forever. And this is the plan of Shinobi Eradication. So this plan, more known as the end of the Shinobi era, as stated in the anime, is a plan hatched out by Kawaki to end the era of Shinobi. This is what we're going to be focusing on. We want to know exactly what is the Shinobi Eradication plan, why Kawaki is going through with it, and how Boruto is going to stop it. But before we get started with that, we gotta analyze Kawaki's character, who is the main perpetrator behind his plan, to get a better understanding of why he came to want to do this. So Kawaki was born in a small, poor village where he lived out the first 8 to 10 or so years of his life. He was constantly abused by his father, who goes by the name of Kotatsu. Kotatsu was a shinobi who actually fought in the 4th grade Shinobi War, but unfortunately became a heavy alcoholic sometime after the events of the war. So far, we know that this was caused by some psychological trauma caused by the war. His biological mother is still unknown to us. Some speculation and theories tell us it could be Akabe, as more as like a crazy plot twist, but besides that, nothing on her yet. I feel like we'll get more information regarding Kawaki's background to further support his possessive and overprotective nature, but if not, the information we got so far would suffice on that. So Kawaki lived out his early childhood working to earn enough money to fund his father's alcohol addiction. And if he didn't earn enough money to buy one bottle of booze at the end of the day, his father would then go on to beat him and send him to his room without dinner, constantly telling Kawaki he's hollow, he's empty, he's worth nothing. One day, an unidentified man came to Kawaki's house. This man would end up being Jigen. Jigen offered to buy Kawaki from his father for a hefty amount of money. Kawaki's father never really cared for him. The only use he had for him was to make him earn money to buy him more bottles. So of course he would take the money in exchange for Kawaki. And just to make things worse, on the way out of the village, they ran into another man who was one of the first people who we seen that was somewhat kind to Kawaki, and he ended up being a trafficker. The kindness he showed Kawaki was just to get him to open up so he could kidnap him. So legit, Kawaki never knew what it felt like to be genuinely loved and wanted just for being himself. He grew up under the care of Jigen, who constantly abused him physically and mentally. Jigen again reminding him of his hollowness. He ingrained it into his head so much that eventually he started to believe it himself. Soon after, Kawaki would be bestowed the Karma Seal by Jigen, who forced him to undergo numerous of experiments against his will. So Kawaki really had nothing growing up. No friends, no family. The only thing that he ever owned was a pet goldfish. But even then, Jigen used this goldfish as psychological torment if he didn't want to undergo the harsh training he put him through to be able to use the karma. This goldfish also had a hidden meaning within Kawaki's character. It represented how he viewed himself, as a vessel, trapped within the bowl with no means of escape, and unable to change his fate. This is how Kawaki felt being with his father, being with Jigen. However, this all changed when he met Naruto. Naruto acted as the light at the end of the tunnel. Someone for the first time ever that not only didn't abuse him in every way possible, but treated him like a son, a loved one who had value. Through his actions, he taught Kawaki not to see himself as a vessel, but as a person. As a kid who spent most of his life running from Jigen, Kara, just his fate in general, he finally found someone who he could call a father. So Kawaki developed a deep love for Naruto. This love developed into a deep possessive and overprotective nature. And I can't sit here and lie to you guys and say it doesn't make sense as to why Kawaki is acting like this. Seeing where he came from and how he used to live, I can honestly say I feel for Kawaki and I understand him on a deeper level. This feeling Kawaki has towards Naruto is coming from a lonely child who longs for love. He just wanted to be treated like a regular child. He wanted it for such a long period of time that when he finally got it, he was already so broken down and on guard that it took a while for him to open up and finally accept the new comrades that he had. For Kawaki, it almost felt too good to be true. Not only did he have a father, he also got a mother, a brother, sister, and friends. Something he never thought a person like himself could ever have. But that by itself wasn't the only thing that developed this personality trait within Kawaki. Actually, more of it had to do with Kara, because they eventually started to chase after Kawaki, and them chasing after Kawaki put Naruto in danger. First in his fight against Delta, then Ishiki, and then eventually Code and Momoshiki. The fear of losing Naruto was too much for his mind to handle, knowing he could lose the one person who means the most to him by his tormentors and abusers. Then, when of course Ishiki died, Code was still a threat. Actually, not only Code, but Boruto was also a threat now because of him being Momoshiki's vessel. But this time, the fear of losing Naruto just became 10 times worse because he just lost Kurama, and Sasuke lost his Rinnegan. The reality is now hitting that these guys are mortal again. They can die, and with threats like Code that exceed the level of Jigen now emerging, nobody's really there to protect Naruto. Nobody but Boruto and Kawaki, and Boruto can just snap at any second and go on a rampage. Now Boruto's easily the #1 threat to Naruto because unlike Code, Boruto is closer to Naruto, and that's his son. There's no way Naruto would be able to kill Boruto, so his life is in constant danger because of that mere fact. And the most frustrating part is that Kawaki knows as hard as he tries, he can't do anything because after the death of Ishiki, Kawaki didn't have access to the karma anymore, rendering him powerless against the likes of Momoshiki and Code. Before the day that changed everything, the day that turned Kawaki into what he is today. So in chapter 65, Kawaki reawoke in his karma, but this time in the form of a weapon. With Ishiki gone for good, this was his power to use for his own purpose, and he would not waste this opportunity. It was like the gods of the universe telling and showing him his purpose of disposing all OTSUTSUKI and their underlings. And now with the karma, he has the power to protect Naruto. He can finally do something about the threats that Naruto still faces. So he takes matters into his own hands and does just that. Defeating Momoshiki and quote-unquote killing Boruto, and then beating the stuffing out of Code. He knew he had to do it because if not him, Naruto would be dead. Kawaki's deep desire to protect Naruto has made him realize deep down he needed the power of the karma. So therefore, that desire activated the karma that Amato already installed into him. And this carries over to Two Blue Vortex. At the current time, Kawaki believes that all OTSUTSUKI have to be dealt with for Naruto to be truly safe. Not only because of how he was treated by one in the past, but because all they have ever done or tried to do was take from him. And because of that, Naruto, being his only reason for living, is now in danger. He even plans to unalive himself eventually because of him being an OTSUTSUKI. That's how serious he is. So looking back, it was a mixture of things that played a role into Kawaki's overwhelming possessiveness. Jigen, his father, Kara, and Momoshiki. But now Kawaki also has the power to do something. So through his power, this deep desire seems to be amplified tenfold. Because with his power, he decided to put Naruto into another dimension altogether in a last-ditch effort to protect him. Now, whoever wants to get to Naruto physically can't. Well, I don't know if someone can't just kill Kawaki and take his Kokugan. I mean, that could also be a possibility. We've seen something similar to that when Madara took Kakashi's Sharingan to enter the Kamui dimension. But if that's not a possibility, then nobody has a means of getting to Naruto. Now, until all the threats are eliminated, Kawaki is gonna keep Naruto in the Daikokuta dimension. And now, with the emergence of the Shinju, it just gotten worse because JURA, who is the leader of the Shinju, is currently after Naruto for the sole purpose of devouring him. And at the end of the day, we don't know what JURA is truly capable of. So the thought of Naruto being 100% safe probably isn't a thing anymore. Not for us, nor Kawaki. So that means Kawaki for sure isn't releasing Naruto until the day comes when Boruto, along with the Shinju and Code, is eventually killed. Now that we understand Kawaki's motives for everything, why is he initiating the Shinobi Eradication plan? What if I told you that plan has little to do with the current circumstances, but more about Naruto himself? After a while, Kawaki will realize something. A minor mistake in his mindset that he's been ignorant of all this time. Thinking back to the Jigen fight, Delta fight, or against Code, Naruto constantly put himself in danger. Even if he knew the chances of him winning were very bleak, at the end of the day, he fought, because that's just who he is. That day when Kawaki met Kurama, he told him something about Naruto. Even though this specific part isn't included in the manga, I still like to bring it up because it adds a lot of depth into Kawaki and Naruto's relationship. This statement allows him to understand Naruto a little bit better. He told him that he's seen Naruto fight recklessly many times. He put himself through agony to face his enemies without any concern of their strength or running out of chakra. That's just who he is. For his friends and family, he wouldn't hesitate about putting his life on the line. Kawaki, knowing this, based off the anime and the manga, he understands Naruto is the Hokage, and the Hokage views everyone in the village as his family. Hence the reason why he constantly puts himself in these life or death situations. Even before he became the Hokage and all the village became his family, he would still risk his life for his friends. And in all these situations, Naruto blindly risked his life. Also, I have to note, in most of these situations, he could have died if Kawaki wasn't there. Naruto would have died if Kawaki wasn't there to take the blow from Delta's lasers. I mean, come on, nobody expected her to play that dirty trick and attack Himawari, but the fact still stands. Naruto would have probably died or gotten seriously injured if Kawaki wasn't there. And again, against Jigen, Naruto and Sasuke lost to Jigen, then he got sealed. The only people that could save him was Team 7 with Kawaki. With Sasuke out of commission, they was really the only ones capable of saving Naruto. If not, who knows what have happened. And finally against Momoshiki's Rasengan, which would have completely shredded Naruto to pieces if it wasn't for Kawaki absorbing it. So time after time, I hate to say it, but the reason Naruto isn't dead right now is because of Kawaki. But it's not what it seems like. It's not the threats that's the problem. The threats are always gonna be there. The problem is Naruto constantly throwing himself into these situations to potentially be killed. In the future, Kawaki will realize this and eventually stop to think. Even if the threats like Boruto, the Shinju, and Code are all gone, Naruto is still gonna risk his life anyway because that's how he is. There's absolutely nothing Kawaki could do to change this about Naruto. He's been like that ever since episode 1, chapter 1 of the series, and Kawaki definitely sees this. So instead of changing Naruto, he's gonna eliminate his reason of doing so by tearing down the Shinobi system. You see, Kawaki believes the continued existence of Shinobi only endangers Naruto because their fighting spirit keeps dragging him into conflicts. And it's not just Naruto, it's every Shinobi. They all have that spirit known as the Will of Fire, which is why he believes all Shinobi are destined to die early. They're always putting themselves in the face of death if that means protecting something. So in his view, if the Shinobi system collapses, then Naruto, who is the Hokage and protector of that system, would no longer be compelled to risk himself defending it. It's really as simple as that. He knows the system is flawed, and therefore, since the system is flawed, it will always bring a rise to different enemies. As we've seen throughout the series, the Shinobi system has brought upon many enemies throughout time. Madara, Orochimaru, Obito, even Pain. Even if there are no wars, someone is always gonna want more. There's just naturally evil people, and there's people that are products of the system like the ones I mentioned above. And who's gonna be right there to fight these people once they threaten Konoha? The Hokage, along with every other Konoha Shinobi. Because the Hokage is the living embodiment of the system, he's one of the biggest targets. So the Shinobi Eradication system is literally just destroying that. Destroying Konoha and all the other 5 great nations. No villages, no need for Hokage. Therefore the system falls apart. You see, the true target of this plan isn't Shinobi itself, but it's the system of Shinobi. That's the real problem that Kawaki's facing. You see, at first I was gonna sit here and explain why Kawaki was wrong for this, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna leave that up to you guys, because everyone has their own perception of the situation, and if given the chance, a lot of people would agree with Kawaki here. And that's just the reality. Everyone has different mindsets, so it would be wrong to state what's right or wrong, because that'll be my own interpretation of the situation. Someone could think what Kawaki is doing is well justified. Are you one of those people? Let me know in the comment section below. So Boruto is fighting Kawaki to obviously protect the Shinobi system. By the looks of it, Kawaki destroyed Konoha and did something to the Shinobi that stood in his way. I'd say he either killed them or placed them into the Daikokuta dimension. I personally don't think he killed them. At the end of the day, Kawaki isn't a crazy murderer. Saying he killed them doesn't go along with his character all too well. So I'd say he placed them into the Daikokuta dimension. But the final fight will determine what happens to the Shinobi system. Will it survive or crumble under the hands of Kawaki? Will Boruto be able to defeat Kawaki and teach him what Naruto would truly want? Will he be able to show Kawaki a better path than the one he's currently on? This is what the final arc of Boruto is going to look like, and that's the questions that it presents to us. So yeah, that's really it. I think I'm going to end it off on that note. So let me know what you guys think of this final arc, and if Kawaki is right or wrong. And based off your own perception, how do you think Boruto can convince him otherwise? And without further ado, if you enjoyed this video and don't mind seeing more like this in the near future, go ahead and like the video, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss another video like this or when I go live for chapter spoilers. And until my next one, I'll see you boys and girls later, and I'm out. Peace.